Therefore, one pill is more than enough for the capacity of an ordinary mortal. Tian Fan didn't pay much attention to these things. He only focused on diligently practicing. Immediately, the Dajugu acupoint was ruptured, and the cells would separate, with the injured parts recovering rapidly. Of course, none of this would happen without the Nano inside Tian Fan's body. Subsequently, the Lin Dai Pillar acupoint, the Chatdong spot, and the Haiyan Shu point were all broken and immediately restored. Despite the intense pain the protagonist still had to endure, anyone who took both pills would simultaneously disrupt the body's blood circulation, leading to an explosion of blood energy throughout the house. Combined with the intensity of training, his body became extremely tired. He thought, "I'm leaving now. Next time, I won't overdose." Currently, his internal skills have increased by about 40 years, totaling around 90 years, plus another 130 years of training. Not only that skills, but there were also many other things that made Tian Fan unfamiliar with the abundant flow of internal. The repetitive process of destroying and restoring acupoints had made everything firmer and stronger. With internal skills like this, when executing techniques, the protagonist can double his strength. Knowing this, he had to check if his sword Kai had become thicker and longer. It was even stronger than the Supreme Leader's sword Ki. He hadn't yet realized many things, so he couldn't reach the pinnacle. But these were the basic foundations for a strong internal skill. However, there was also the matter of the stone techniques in the third-floor library. Nano immediately transmits data into Tian Fan's brain. Could some stone techniques destroy the Heavenly Demon Sword technique? Just the 93rd technique of destruction knowledge was enough to suppress the third technique of the Heavenly Demon Sword technique. Tian Fan understood. This was why the sword marks on the stone tablet had appeared so disorderly. The third technique of the Heavenly Demon Sword technique was stronger than the first two techniques combined with Nano. Can you transmit the third technique of the Heavenly Demon Sword technique to me? Currently, his body had reached its limit. If he did this, it would affect the host's development process. However, he could still perform a second technique stronger than the first, so Tian Fan was curious and decided to try it. Recalling all the images in the library, he exerted his energy, and the sword key appeared in his hand. It was quite painful, but he reminded himself to endure the ruptured meridians in his arm. Despite this, he executed it flawlessly. There were too many unnecessary movements, so his muscles were affected. Nano continues the urgent recovery process. If his current body couldn't accept it, he would find it difficult to execute the technique. Tian Fan looked at the marks he had made on the floor. The aura and sword force that the sword technique brought could create this. So there were reasons for the 93 techniques. The third technique's strength was unknown. After recovery, he will try again later. What was in front of him now was power and speed almost superior to the second technique. This proves its strength. He felt that he couldn't bear using both techniques anymore. He wondered how ordinary swordsmen would cope. If the third technique was difficult to learn, then the fourth technique would be even more so. Nano transmitted all the techniques on the Fan Gok Thatch stone tablet on the fourth floor, making it easy for him to learn and execute. It seemed like a breakthrough during this waiting period for the next competition. After meditation, Tian Fan felt something strange, but he didn't know where to explain it. He requested Nano to reproduce it using 3D holographic images. It activates the techniques in combat mode. Both holograms collided at dizzying speeds, and something strange happened. Both techniques were evenly matched. Tian Fan himself was also surprised. How could the technique not defeat the Heavenly Demon Sword technique? Time passed slowly, and after a few hours, the animations were still maintained in combat mode. Perhaps the protagonist wanted to experiment repeatedly to be clearer. In the end, it was still the same as before. No matter how many times he tried, the result remained inconclusive. The final knowledge of the Heavenly Demon Sword technique added spinning movements, preventing the sword force from reaching its peak. The destructive technique leaves many sword marks. According to the system's analysis, about 130 marks were left, and with the Thap-2 sword technique in the final move, it chopped the corner of the stone tablet. Not only did it require strength, but also a complete focus of mental energy. Even the powerful sword technique of the Heavenly Demon was defeated by the essence of mental energy. Tian Fan pondered. Perhaps the higher martial artists were angry because their efforts seemed futile. He understood that if he wanted to understand the external martial arts of the underworld, he had to enhance his own martial arts skills. Later, After spending many hours eating, Tan Fan gathered with his companions. They ate and drank heartily, seemingly carefree. Although they said so, most of them offered many beneficial suggestions on how to cultivate both quickly and powerfully. Eating dinner together is a good thing. Why? Probably because everyone will be busy practicing martial arts, right? Doing ourselves is correct. We should foster more camaraderie. Tian Fan understood. If we're alone, we won't achieve anything. After a satisfying meal, he went to the paper and pen production place of the underworld. The supervisor didn't understand what the leader was doing with a pile of paper like that. We need to write a secret book. Maybe we'll need more if it's not enough. About 60 books can be written from that pile. Is he planning to memorize all that? A few days after the Mid-Autumn Festival feast, Tian Fan ordered his subordinates to gather again. Van Q had been silently observing and felt that Kong Tu was acting strangely recently. Thinking back to the previous incidents, it seemed even stranger. Why was he always so disheveled like that? Tian Fan casually answered that he was writing letters. Others couldn't understand what he was trying to do. Was he leaving a will? Everyone was gathered, and Tian Fan brought along a stack of various scrolls, as inspired by the monarch. Today, I call upon everyone to discuss the current plan. Starting tomorrow, we will embark on secluded cultivation. This statement excites many, but some worry about the incomplete state of their own practice. If the monarch Kovong asked about the duration of seclusion, Tan Fan was uncertain. It could be 1 year, 2 years, or 10 years. Whenever results were achieved, they would stop, looking at the determined expression in the monarch's eyes. Tan Fan felt encouraged. Many subordinates also respectfully wished the monarch success before leaving. This wasn't just the task of that Kong Tu. After passing the 4th level assessment, everyone had to do it. Before leaving, Tan Fan gave 2 orders to his subordinates. Firstly, until he completes his seclusion, everyone must pass the 4th level assessment. This would be difficult because, apart from the Luck Kim, everyone had very weak abilities. Friends like Vu to Tin and Tai Thatch Kim were confident because they were already strong. However, there were several other reasons for being in the ranks of Luck Kim. Everyone had to try their best. However, it would be difficult for most of the others, because they came from ordinary families. The second order was to learn all the martial arts secrets he had copied. Surely, combining these 2 tasks will make passing the 4th level assessment as easy as pie. Van Q finally understood why the young master's face was always covered in ink before. She admired and cherished him even more. Many other Luck Key members also realized that those secrets were from the 4th floor library. "Whoever I call, please come get your stuff," she announced. Firstly, the mischievous little troublemaker eagerly rushed up to receive his gift. Upon inspection, his expression became incomprehensible. All he held were top-notch secrets. There were Honan sword technique, the martial art of the Supreme Lam-an Sect, the sword technique of Hosun, and Dan Thite Foot from the Dan Thite Sect. All of them were top-notch techniques indeed. Due to overwhelming gratitude, Ho Bong immediately held a ceremony to express thanks to the divine and maritime powers, which Than Pham dedicated to many who only recently understood that Kong Tu was a magnanimous and tolerant figure, not hesitating to accept disciples from various smaller sects, even to the point of death. However, until now, his subordinates still didn't know that the remaining 99 handwritten books were all different martial arts. If everyone learned supreme martial arts, they would be surprised to the point of panic. Ho Dong Ho knew the sovereign's new nickname, Det Lump, because every encounter in the library caused disturbances, preventing anyone from concentrating on reading anything. Vonkin understood and spoke up. "Could it be that you have memorized all the secrets in here already, noble Than Pham? Your mind is not that ordinary. Perhaps this should be used for Nano, isn't it true? I don't know what to say about this. I am extremely dissatisfied with the sovereign's behavior. Time spent reading in the library is limited, so one cannot read too much. The 6 individuals chosen by the sovereign are all experts in the martial arts of the top 6 sects. If they knew many types of martial arts, they could analyze them easily. I thought I understood his character quite well, but in reality, I don't. The sovereign is definitely envisioning a great future, which his subordinates have yet to see." Than Pham called each person by name to receive the secret techniques, all of whom were respectful and loyal not to disappoint his expectations. Van Q felt ecstatic, as if embracing the main character. However, he still didn't understand the books he had just received. But it was simple. They must focus on internal skills and mental techniques. It's strange that even Hobon's books contain something from Tranquok, making them even wiser. Bach Kai regretted not having that technique, and many others were curious because they received many types of martial arts not related to Thin Med and Sect. After finishing reading, Van Q also noticed that these techniques were superior to the internal skills of their sect, Tai Thach Kim. Unable to comprehend, he asked the sovereign where he found these. But as soon as he spoke, Thin Pham's face turned cold, and she had to apologize for her rudeness. The main character also found an excuse to stop mentioning learning strange martial arts, as they were secret techniques in the fourth floor library. 2 days ago, Thin Pham was very confused about which internal skills to give to his subordinates, while Nano was still analyzing energy sources released through breathing. Although lengthy, it could classify various internal skills, helping enhance energy circulation. However, the main character didn't want anyone to have the Than Tam Phap. Therefore, how could he find it again and discover the sample named number 37? I analyzed the content of the internal skills in the first floor and referred to the internal skills in the first floor, and then to the fourth floor to create a new internal skill. So the system creates a new internal skill in the process of analyzing energy released through breathing. Therefore, one could only create it within 2 days. Have you also analyzed the internal skills of Thin Ma Sword Calm? This is a combination of energy generated through movement and energy from breathing in the body, so I haven't completed its analysis yet. First, let me know the structure of sample number 37. It's impossible. I just tried to use a little energy, but it's as powerful as Vo Thin Tam Phap. It may be more stable than the method of using external objects. This internal skill will react with all martial arts. But what should we call it? Indeed, Han Duing Kong was created because I only thought of it then. However, my subordinates mistakenly believed that the techniques in the fourth floor were very advanced. However, within it, there was something similar to the lost Tam Phap of the superior sect. Thin Pham reminded everyone to stay in the study room to learn the techniques, then canceled the class. The next morning, everyone went to the Northwest Demonic Sect's cultivation place to bid farewell. He reminded the 6 swords to help each other become proficient in martial arts, and agreed that it was a way to enhance their strength. With nothing more to say, all the subordinates were fortunate to successfully undergo the grand cultivation. Thin Pham slowly entered the designated room, surveying the surroundings. It wasn't much different from the training room, just a bit wider. He had requested many things, but they were all adequately prepared. Even with years of cultivation, reaching the pinnacle was still far away. Without delay, he urged Nano to transmit 245 supreme martial arts techniques into their minds. Although the martial arts were from the superior sect, they were still inferior to the destruction sword technique. Thin Pham believed in the necessity of mastering various martial arts to broaden one's horizons. The schedule was divided into 3 parts within a day: practicing techniques in the morning, sparring with illusions in the afternoon, and utilizing mental techniques in the evening. As it was now afternoon, they will spar with illustrative opponents. Nano immediately activates the feature. Although there was only 1 participant for now, the numbers will increase later, along with the difficulty. Thin Pham's ultimate goal was to spar with the illusions of his master, surpassing what his master had faced when facing the rebellious prisoner Blood Demon technique. At this point, no one could have imagined that Thin Pham would extend his time in cultivation. After a day, he became a candidate to become the junior sect leader of the Hien Ma sect. Thien Min, having defeated the sect leader and passed the level test successfully, stood second as the fastest in the history of the demonic sect. In the next 10 days, Van Q passed the 3rd level examination. The 3rd person to pass the 4th level examination was Thin Kung Van, succeeding after 2 wins, and then began his cultivation. Van Q understood the importance of cultivation, but due to the instructions of the sect leader, spent time teaching martial arts to the subordinates from smaller sects. Bach Kai was the 2nd person to pass the 4th level examination in the group of the main character. However, he wasn't very happy. 4 months later, Thin Mut Gait began his cultivation. At the same time, 2 more people passed the examination within the 6 swords: Nai Kim Ko Vomkat and Nu Kim Vu to 10. 5 martial arts students were eliminated due to failing the exams after a long time without anyone challenging the sect leaders. The following month, Tam Kim Ho Song Ho and Tu Kim Tai Thach Kim successfully passed the 4th level examination. In the 6th month, Hu Jing Chen Gu and a few others reached the initial pinnacle. Until the 10th month, all those who followed passed the exams, with 15 people being expelled from the demonic sect. It took Than Pham 2 years to reach the pinnacle, with 80 martial arts students achieving this level. As all martial arts students had completed their cultivation that year, the 6 swords were temporarily not recruited. Additionally, 40 martial arts students achieved the superlative level. Following that, within 4 months, Thin Mian became the first to complete the 5th level examination at the Fong Ma Cave. Later, 6 more people passed the 5th level examination. However, the 5th exam became more dangerous, resulting in 3 people failing, including 3 deaths, and no one dared to challenge the 5th exam anymore. 3 years later, during the Grand Martial Arts selection in the demonic sect, the situation was greatly different. Since all of Than Pham's subordinates registered, the results completely changed. Ko Vong Kat became the first, followed by Van Q, then Bat Kai, Ho Kasong Ho, Vu to Tin, and finally Vu Bin. Everyone was lying and waiting for the day when the sect leader finished his cultivation. As usual, the 6 swords always seize the time to confide in each other. People are still not sufficient. Why does Jia Hu say such empty words? And one person has already gone to watch from the sidelines. Although there are 2 people, no one worries about the strength of Hu Jing. Well, that's good, but the competition for the position of the junior sect leader is getting fiercer. It's not Bat Kai who challenges Thien Kung Van at the dining table next time. It seems like I'm someone who won't surpass him, or what? It's said so. But everyone is worried that those junior sect leaders will always resort to cunning tricks. Vong Kat is feeling uneasy today, and at the same time, Ho Bong and Van Q are in the training ground. You wield weapons and gather here for what then? Then Kung Van is very eager to invite Van Q to join his faction. This is my final offer. Think carefully about my proposition. I've said it many times already. Are you deaf? We already have a leader, but clearly the little sect leader of the Sword Devil sect is not satisfied. If he wins, he overlooks. If he loses, he becomes a follower. I can't stand that shameless behavior anymore. That's why Chu Thane Kung Van is despicable. I said it's not for you. I'm talking to Van Q only. But after saying so, he signaled his subordinates to attack. The 2 younger disciples of Thine Pham wrinkled their brows because their skills were weaker now, unable to resist from within. He had to use internal energy to relieve the pressure on his subordinates. The 3 others were planning to kill, but their bodies were all restrained. The 2 below didn't understand what was happening. Those above were controlled effortlessly by a surge of energy. All 3 troublemakers were pushed down. You idiots! What are you up to? Than Pham stepped out, unable to recognize his elder brother. But Van Q sensed the aura of the faction leader after 3 years. Despite being a bit disheveled, many changes were noticeable. The 3 troublemakers now standing up made both Thien Kung Van and his subordinates silent, observing. It's unbelievable. He's using internal energy to manipulate objects. What kind of demonic technique is this? The little sect leader of the Sword Devil sect understood that his opponent had reached an extraordinary level. It took me 2 years to reach the peak. But he's already playing tricks. What are you waiting for? Quickly suppress him. But Thine Pham's 2 disciples won't let it be easy. You arrogant fools! How dare you, weaklings, obstruct us? He thought he could detain one while the faction leader deals with the rest. He rushed to block Than Kung Van's subordinate, but the latter was proactive, not standing idly by. Van Q saw the danger and halted. His strength had significantly increased. He managed to counter the opponent's sword barehanded, suppressing his fear. He might have infused energy into his palm to block it. Still, both were using top-notch techniques. The others easily closed in on Than Pham, but with a gentle exertion of internal force, he made them all float. In midair, they were vulnerable, and each received a light blow. This action was slow and somewhat graceful, but those fellows were all knocked unconscious, unable to resist. The remaining ones, pale and confused, didn't understand what was happening. Thien Kung Van's right-hand man felt uneasy. With that aura, they were completely overwhelmed. No one here could subdue that monster. Young master, we're done for. Many of us are dead. Hearing this, the protagonist didn't bother responding. Do you really want to force us to the end? Even if you're a genius, we're on equal footing. Before he could finish his sentence, Thien Pham's figure flew in front of him, mouth sealed shut. This time, it flew even farther, 3 times the distance. Anyone witnessing this scene would be disenchanted. Perhaps the next turn will be for Van Q. She was still struggling against Thine Kung Van. It's unbelievable that someone with such a weak body possesses such formidable martial skills. After considering, he increased his power to seize the upper hand peak. After a while, Thien Pham's subordinate ran out of energy to block his attack. How did she manage to block this strike? Van Q could only close her eyes and await death, but she felt no pain. Opening her eyes, she saw a shocking scene. The faction leader gripping Thien Kung Van's sword full of energy. You've truly reached the pinnacle, haven't you? Then, the protagonist's shadow easily swept past him, accompanied by spurts of blood. The little sect leader of the Sword Devil sect had severed ties with his own hand, unable to perceive anything because it was too swift, almost like a blink of an eye. Gradually, a lot of blood spurted out. Thien Kung Van screamed in agony as he gazed at his lost limb. Another person rushed out, but he couldn't utter a word as he was kicked, his body buried under the snow. From the look in his eyes to his expression, he showed sheer terror, accompanied by pleading cries for mercy. But it was too late for him. Thien Pham's most capable subordinates had just arrived when Ko Vong Kant was about to inquire, but he suddenly halted upon seeing the scene. What are you doing here, Van Q? He was in conversation with someone, huh? Jia Hudan observed the male closely, finding his peculiar appearance. After a while, he realized his faction leader, and both couldn't believe that he had immediately come out, so they had to bow and pay respects. The top disciples also approached for an audience, while the others, having just arrived, were still processing. Van Q felt something was missed and had to greet her faction leader again. Backed Kai, however, appears different, evoking fear and awe. The faction leader's aura was on a completely different level, making the opponent breathless, as if facing the sect master Lai Ho Min himself. After contemplating, she also expressed deference, following suit with the others. Ho Dong Ho was surprised to see the third senior disciple being so serious. He couldn't believe that he couldn't utter those shameful words anymore. One by one, the remaining disciples also paid their respects, leaving Thien Pham satisfied that everyone was safe. He truly understands them for waiting all these years. Everyone was delighted that their leader had returned. Ko Vong Hat identified the corpses of Thien Kung Van's group. They were indeed the Sword Sect's candidate, one of the top 3 martial artists of the Devil Sect. In reality, Thien Kung Van had died from excessive bleeding. He had truly reached the peak, hasn't he? Thien Pham smiled contentedly and went to visit the physician, Bac Trom Min. News of his victory over Thien Kung Van had spread throughout the Devil Sect. Based on the results, 5 candidates from the 6 great sects had been defeated by the protagonist. This makes the search for the junior sect leader position even more intense. Thien Mut Guyat's subordinates from the Fuck Ma sect recognized his presence as a threat, growing more anxious by the day. However, their leader showed no interest. He was focused on improving his martial skills. Lai Ho Min received the news and heard about Thien Pham reaching the peak. While it was mostly hearsay, his subordinates seemed confident in it. When his meditation room opened, his subordinates witnessed it firsthand. The sect master was also surprised, because he thought that only that Kong Tu could reach the peak in the Devil Sect. No martial artist had ever passed the 6th trial and reached the pinnacle. This could only be explained by his innate genius. Thinking to this point, he was startled, not understanding why the first disciple also couldn't comprehend the master's attitude. A gentle knock on the door sounded, a familiar voice. "May I come in as scheduled?" If I hadn't heard the report before, I would have thought it was an elder or a dominating force. Sensing that presence surrounding the room, they finally met. "What brings you here, 7th Prince?" It's unclear what happened next, but the protagonist volunteered to take the 5th trial in the North Cave of the Devil Sect. Perhaps Thien Kung Tu had something urgent. It was just that my subordinates had passed, so I wanted to complete the trial as soon as possible. It's truly surprising. I've trained diligently and reached the ultimate pinnacle. But now, I'm the one pursuing him without much questioning. The political arena had opened to allow Thien Pham to complete the remaining tasks. The cold wind here was much colder than outside. This cave was larger than I thought. You need to pass the 5th trial in the cave of the Devil Sect, tasking you to navigate various traps in the darkness. There will be an exit to the east, where we'll wait for your safety. If we fail, we'll shut down the machines to prevent you from encountering any unwanted accident. So the protagonist began the fifth trial, entering the main cave, sealed by the celestial demons, step by step. He slowly descended the stairs as the wind howled, sending chills down his spine. Stone tablets inscribed with strange lines appeared before him, accompanied by eerie sounds echoing below. Nano activated night vision mode, allowing the owner to see a vast corridor and detect a strange odor mixed with various things, making it incomprehensible to the mortal senses. After a long journey, he finally recognized another pathway. It seems that the sensory agency installed began from this point onward. Now he could see everything clearly. Should he use his martial arts to quickly pass through this section? No, he decided against it. The protagonist accelerated, leaping through the spacious corridor. The traps protruding from the ceiling had been activated, not only above, but also on both sides. It wasn't much of a challenge for him. With a flick of his hand, he disarmed several traps. Due to the narrow space, he chose to walk cautiously instead of jumping for safety. However, his first step triggered another trap, a giant stone block descending slowly. Its speed gradually increased, nearly blocking the exit completely. Luckily, his quick reflexes saved him from being crushed. He had to open his system to inspect the remaining traps. After wandering for 15 minutes, he explored larger areas as his subordinates had suggested. But there seemed to be only one exit to the east, contrary to several paths now visible. Following the experience that the safest route is where the wind blows, he intended to follow it. Yet while contemplating this, he noticed something peculiar. It appears that the structure of the cave was related to the secret passages in the Forbidden Cave. Recalling his time imprisoned there, he pleaded to the ancestor, "Please accept this flawed descendant. Obtaining this ancient destiny is my honor." He had decided to destroy this place entirely to prevent anyone from learning the techniques of the celestial demon ancestors. However, a violent earthquake shook the giant pillar at the center, gradually descending, replaced by another structure emanating a different aura, causing cracks in the space. The luminous pearls on the ceiling simultaneously illuminated, not all but those that fell. It was like rain pouring down, forcing him to retreat. After a while, the tremor ceases temporarily. He counted 24 luminous pearls. Upon closer inspection, he picked one up to find it indeed contained techniques and martial principles of the celestial demon swordsmanship. Moreover, the pearls had intricate patterns on the back, forming a map indicating a certain location. Although he didn't understand it yet, he commanded Nano to scan and destroy everything. Back to reality, the system analyzed and created the simulated map. Despite the limited time frame for the trial, he still wanted to see where the ancestor intended to lead him. Following the Nano-guided path, he encountered numerous terrifying sounds, reminding Van Ku's warning about the terrifying depths of the cave. It seemed like everyone who completed the trial heard the sound of children crying. If these sounds were hallucinations, they were too vivid. Although he had activated his senses, he couldn't perceive the aura. Yet this path was indeed peculiar, with more traps than exits. While proceeding cautiously, he was blocked. The map indicates a dead end ahead, but there seems to be more. He stepped back to gain a better view. A large inscription appeared, probably something the celestial demon ancestor had placed behind this stone wall. It was unclear what it was, but the demonic aura was intense. Hence the name Celestial Demon Cave. Someone must have caused something extremely serious to be abandoned here. With little time left for further contemplation, if it was left by the celestial demon ancestor, it surely wouldn't harm him. He decided to break it before considering the consequences. Channeling all his strength into his sword, he struck the wall with all his might. Despite unclear results, the wall revealed a different color from its surface. Nano's analysis reveals its hardness to be equivalent to the jade tablet in the library, indicating it was indeed a celestial jade tablet. However, it wasn't enough. He needed to reach the stage of scene transformation to fully unleash this technique. Because the power was overwhelmingly strong, he initially decided not to use it recklessly. However, it turned out he had to use it here. A surge of internal energy enveloped his sword. Then, with utmost composure, he directed it straight towards the stone tablet. Not only that, but its speed also increased rapidly, no longer similar to basic sword energy, but more like a colossal drill. The sound emitted was deafening, and a violent shockwave was unleashed, covering the area with dust and debris. Indeed, this was necessary for success. He had successfully created a narrow passage to proceed. However, a very unpleasant smell permeated the air, causing discomfort in his nose. He couldn't help but wonder what lay inside. The sword in his hand shattered after completing its task. His master had crafted this for him with great care, yet it could only be used once. The damage was unbearable, and he couldn't withstand the power of the celestial demon swordsmanship. Nano reported a chaotic energy stream rising from the front, its speed incredibly fast. Before he could even comprehend it, it was already heading straight towards him. Passively, his body was flung backward. Although it didn't endanger his life, it caused him considerable discomfort. "What's this?" he'd argued. Why couldn't he stop the continuous energy stream? It relentlessly shot towards him. In his attempt to dodge, eerie sounds resonated from the smoke and dust. A gigantic figure slowly emerges. His eyes broadened in fear as an ancient creature stood before him, a secret hidden by the celestial demon ancestor for centuries, now discovered by him. Although it was a dragon, it was unlike any other, dark and sinister, reminiscent of a monster. As it lunged towards him, intending to attack, its massive body continuously destroyed the surrounding space. If this continues, the cave will collapse, spell his demise. He thought about the celestial jade tablet inside that cave. He could lure it there and deal with it conveniently. The dragon chased after its prey persistently. However, as it extended its body, Pham quickly circled back and entered the newly created passage. Surprisingly, as he jumped down, he realized there was water beneath. This was odd. Upon closer inspection, it wasn't water but a strange viscous substance emitting a foul odor. In fact, it was directly below where he was standing. As he frowned, the dragon's gaping mouth came rushing towards him. He quickly withdrew, but the viscous liquid hindered his movements. Unable to fly due to the sticky substance, he resorted to using his internal energy to attack the dragon. After struggling for a while, it seemed futile. Moreover, it only angered the dragon further. Despite using the celestial demon swordsmanship, it showed no signs of weakening. Its skin was as tough as iron, perhaps even tougher than the celestial jade tablet. He frantically tried to find a way to defeat the creature, but to no avail. Suddenly, he noticed a small detail. Why wasn't the water surface rippling at all? Couldn't it be that if the dragon entered the water, it would rise, causing the surface to change? Nano activated full environmental scanning mode. The owner confirmed abnormal plasma energy sources within that cave. It was a phenomenon formed by the accumulation of abnormally high concentrations of ionized molecules in the atmosphere. Scientifically unproven, it could be called a supernatural phenomenon. Just as he was puzzled, the system warned of lightning phenomena rapidly approaching. The dragon roared furiously, intending to devour its prey. Despite striking it on the head, the water surface remains undisturbed, only emitting cracking sounds. Nano analyzed the situation. The 24 suspended iron pieces were the source of the plasma energy. He quickly ordered Nano to shine a red light on the location of these iron pieces on the creature. All of them were at the dragon's head. Pham couldn't believe his eyes. Each piece corresponded exactly to the direction of the fundamental sword techniques of the celestial demon swordsmanship he had been cultivating for the past 3 years. Now, he could simultaneously execute them almost at once. He decided to experiment to see which side was stronger, as he had long been curious while idly watching the virtual confrontations between different images. He had gathered enough internal energy, launching a mighty blow. After the impact, he continued to exert pressure to suppress the creature. Eventually, he succeeded in subduing it. He planned to measure its length when another sound caught his attention. He turned to see the iron pieces separating on their own, as if attracted to each other, forming the basic animations of an ultimate weapon. This can be the secret intentionally hidden by the celestial demon ancestor. A sword forged from numerous celestial demon energies. Pham's mind raced as he observed more closely. Inscribed on the lower half of the sword were 3 characters: Celestial Demon Sword. He understood, it symbolized the leader of the celestial demon sect. But why was it here? He couldn't understand. With a divine force, the sword automatically rested in his hand. The dark aura began to emanate and envelop the entire of his body, altering the surrounding space into a pitch-black void where neither sound nor sensation existed. It was as if all the senses on his body had disappeared. Yet there was no sense of fear or apprehension. Instead, the protagonist felt a profound tranquility. He immediately expanded his eyes to assess the unclear realization, realizing he was in some indeterminate place. almost losing consciousness to the control of the darkness. He called out to Nano, but Nano remained silent. Then, before him, a stream of water erupted, forming a wave that unmistakably resembled the legendary dragon's tail. Although unsure of what to make of it, he thought he had to deal with another creature. The scene remains familiar as it howled ferociously, seems intent on devouring its prey. The body of the dragon began to transform, its horns elongating, and its body growing larger. Could it possibly shed its form into a dragon? Energy surged around, and someone quickly approached. Passing through the other realm, the protagonist could only feel the horn of the dragon being rapidly severed. It turned out the person had used a sword to quickly slice it off. While remaining silent, observing intently, the situation felt akin to watching a replay of an old movie. As the horn fell, the creature cried out in agony, its white scales gradually turning black. He didn't understand who this blackened figure was, or why they severed the horn. The animation of the figure continues as it emanates the dark aura from the sword. Pham understood it to be the darkened sword, but it felt peculiar. As Long Li transformed, its demeanor grew hostile, having lost its senses, both physically and spiritually. They continued to clash fiercely. The blackened figure displayed incredible strength, easily inflicting dozens of wounds upon the creature. The protagonist recognized these techniques as those of the third heavenly demon sword. Although formidable, the opponent's techniques seemed even more formidable. In a swift motion, Long Li's head was severed. The blackened figure thrust the sword into its body, absorbing the entire of its dark aura. Then, the figure spoke, stating it would take quite some time to absorb all the energy. It seemed this wasn't his ordeal to bear anymore. As soon as this was said, the gaze turned straight towards Pham. He felt a mix of fear and confusion, unsure what to do next. Looking at this face, he could only recognize it as the heavenly demon patriarch. That image ingrained itself deeply into his mind before everything faded away, returning to reality. Nano began to inquire about his health, mentioning he seemed to have unconsciously consumed some repugnant substances. However, he hadn't lost consciousness. He merely held the sword and collapsed. It seemed he had been unconscious for quite some time, realizing he had been in the cave for a while. The system had checked and confirmed it had only been 15 minutes, so there was still time to complete the trial. It further informed him that the black plasma energy from the sword had entered his body, stimulating his brain's nerve cells to operate at 100%, while the remaining energy had merged with his internal energy. He felt the dark aura within him and a significant increase in his internal energy. Undoubtedly, this was the influence of the dark sword, but he couldn't find it anywhere. As he checked, it was nowhere to be seen. Pham panicked, realizing he now looked like a dead man walking. Outside, everyone eagerly waited for the two arrivals. They couldn't understand why someone as accomplished as Pham was taking so long. The Grand Masters understood only those who passed the 5th level test were permitted here. But in the past, only those who were worthy could enter this cave. Couldn't it be that the person was the 7th disciple? Such thoughts crossed their minds as Pham finally emerged. Now, he had successfully ascended from teen leader to Grand Master. People intended to congratulate him, but hesitated due to the overwhelming stench of death. Congratulations on passing the 5th level test, Grand Master, they said, noting something peculiar, a branch of Long Li's forest in his hand. Afterward, he returned to his room, refreshed himself, and soaked in the bath until the foul odor dissolved. He had to soak for nearly half an hour. It wasn't a minor inconvenience. Just as he thought that, he noticed an odd item in the ghost cave room. What was he going to do with it? Pham had too many vague thoughts at the moment. Before leaving the cave, he practiced a few techniques of the heavenly demon sword, using the dark sword. Indeed, his mental cultivation combined with his formidable aura mastery had become impeccable. The pieces of Tan Gok Than, once sturdy as ever, had been slashed like mud under his dark sword technique. The Than Makim endured all, for its terrifying power was unmatched. The sword reverted to its cursed form, enveloping his body with dark aura. This was the fusion of man and sword, without the need for constant contact. Moreover, his body was gradually heating up. Nano reported that the liquid had permeated his body, coursing through his veins. Whatever remains will be excreted as waste once the transformation into Hokan was completed. The dual pathways in his body had been cleared, and the waste in his veins was mostly expelled. Perhaps even the residual waste in this black liquid could be purged from his body. Yes, this black fluid was indeed the blood of Long Lai. If given to his subordinates, it might aid them somewhat. Another earthquake, suggesting the ground around was on the verge of collapse. It seemed the cave was nearing destruction, and the blood was flowing downwards. Pham regretted not obtaining more. It might have only been enough for each of the 6 swords. But what about the horn of Long Lai? The man in the illusion had left it for him. Unsure of what to do, he turned to Nano for analysis. However, due to the horn's unique composition, Nano couldn't provide much information, but its hardness could only be inferior to diamond. Pham pondered using a diamond sword to test its hardness again. He concentrated his internal energy into the horn, but it seemed to resist, even repelling the force against the sword's energy. This resistance was peculiar, perhaps due to its nature as a creature's horn. This strength would be sufficient to withstand even the Vu Dao Fap, or the Than Ma sword art. He could use it as material for crafting swords or daggers, which would undoubtedly be incredibly sturdy. However, could his master, refine it? After bathing, he visited the master's room at the Devil's Sect, having passed the test in less than 2 hours. His luck had only improved, making it even more intriguing. Although the trial had ended, he still felt an excessive release of dark aura. Could the words of the Grand Master be true? Indeed, only the deserving would encounter the hidden dark aura within the ghost cave. Since he began studying swordsmanship, the dark aura had spread throughout his body. Yet the Devil's Sect remains undisturbed. The political arena refreshed the sect master of his foolishness. Lai Ho Min understood and congratulated the newly appointed Thean Don Chu. Finally, the dog had become a true master. He quickly handed Pham a treasure, a pure iron key engraved with the words, Thean Mei then Sect, which the sect master had temporarily made. Pham only wanted to discard it, but suppressed his childish thoughts. However, he still inquired about information regarding the 6th level test. It seemed to be a rare occurrence in the Devil's Sect, so everyone was surprised by Pham's question. The sect master remained silent, his gaze full of meaning. But perhaps now it wasn't just a simple inquiry. Pham intended to challenge the Than Don Chu. Having earned the right to participate in the 6th level test, everyone understood that Pham had reached Tu Vi Hokan. Only at this level can disciples enter the competition, with some taking up to 70 years to qualify. The 6th level test was reserved for masters within the sect, who would duel one of the 12 elder disciples. Pham wondered who this elder could be. Was he allowed to challenge them in this test? Regardless, as the Devil's Sect concluded, it was also the time for the 6 major factions to vie for supremacy. Therefore, Pham asked for permission to return home to ponder before answering, and to complete his mastery of the Then Ma Kim Kong. After that, he headed to the library to expand his knowledge. Meanwhile, the sect master remained seated in a corner, his thoughts matured and seasoned. It seemed he had grown considerably, no longer the naive individual from the days of abandoning the Dan Dian of Thain Truong Thain. Surely, the words of Lai Ho Min from years past had altered his character fundamentally. In truth, challenging back Ngo now wouldn't be a wise choice. For 4 years, you have lived under the protection of the demon sect, and now it's almost over. Who knows what will happen when the claws of the 6 great sects are unleashed? By that time, the sects will be in great chaos. How will you deal with them? Heavenly and earthly matters have been recorded in the 5th floor of the library. Here, there are only 20 secret manuals left from the past. Your master once advised you that the Supreme Heart technique is hidden on the 5th and 4th floors. But now, perhaps the protagonist doesn't need it anymore. The only important thing for him is the final move of the Heavenly Demon Sword technique. Nano, analyze this poem and decipher its key points to help us. While waiting, he also ran to the back to see the hidden marks on the lower floors. Then his eyes broadened in amazement because there were no sword marks on the 5th floor jade. The Heavenly Demon founder didn't leave any because there were no techniques to destroy. However, Nano discovered a sword mark on a stone tablet left by someone. It activates the entire scanning system, allowing the owner to see more clearly. Apparently, that sword mark was very subtle, causing the system to vibrate intensely. This was the sword mark left by the Heavenly Demon founder, which could delay such knowledge. If so, what about the other side? It was concealed, so he couldn't see it. But indeed, there were traces of penetration. It seemed as if he hadn't used his power. The Heavenly Demon founder only focuses on the spiritual power emanating from the sword technique, causing it to explode. If there were more than one type of power, or if he had used spiritual energy, this stone tablet would have been reduced to dust. The simple reason behind the lack of specific sword marks was that he couldn't find a way to break it with conventional sword techniques. The mystery of the sword technique that the heavenly demon founder understood in his later years was not about releasing sword techniques, but integrating them together. This includes both the intention of the sword and the intention of the user contained within the sword. Thinking of this, the protagonist sat down to comprehend it. It seemed that there were many gradual changes around him, and the movement of energy became faster. His body emitted a brilliant light, and loud sounds echoed throughout the library. Many scattered secret manuals nearby were overturned. Thus, a perfect scene was created. This made the guards outside rush in. When they were about to ask questions, their eyes broadened in astonishment, and others, out of curiosity, followed suit. They all remained silent. Then they approached the protagonist. One of them recognized that it was the quintessence formation of the 5 elements. He couldn't believe his eyes witnessing the scene. If he reaches the stage of formation transformation, he will be overwhelmed by the fortune of heaven and earth. But this could only be called half of that stage through temporary quintessence. At the moment when even the elemental Kai in his body became a unified whole, then it would be called absolute formation transformation. Of course, the protagonist couldn't reach 50% of this 2 threshold. As he gradually ascended, his body changed along with the blood vessels on his body slowly protruding. The guards protecting him also had to look up at him with astonished eyes due to the unexpected change. Gradually, the blood vessels all over his body bulged, which was the rebirth of the golden core. They guessed correctly. Then the spiritual power emitted made 3 guards unable to bear it. Finally, the protagonist's upgrade process was completed. The quiet space returned to its original state. The guards understood that the leader's fortune had been exhausted, and now they probably couldn't feel any fortune. Feeling very comfortable, the protagonist's eyes revealed gratitude. Those around him quickly bowed and congratulated him for transcending the peak of life. He was a bit surprised and didn't understand why they did so. Had he truly reached the peak of formation transformation? This was the first time he realized a technique without having to transmit signals to his brain. He relied on the guards for protecting him while he was in an uncertain state. Around the library, everything was in chaos. People were busy rearranging, and no one paid attention to the secret manuals. Therefore, all possibilities of someone learning the heavenly demon's sword technique had returned to its original place. You may have read it correctly. The first manual that the protagonist scanned was the martial arts of the 6 great sects. Although they might not contain their most powerful techniques, they are certainly the supreme martial arts of the demon sect. Additionally, here also lies the martial arts of the meditation technique, which is the delightful sword technique. After watching it, I'm also curious about the Wind Spirit set. It's not exactly martial arts, but rather a type of footwork. Since there's no other footwork available, I might as well learn this one. Afterwards, the protagonist returned to his private room, where all his subordinates were waiting to congratulate him for passing the level 5 test. It seems everyone was curious about how Thien Pham had performed in the demon cave. Ho, feeling that his boss was even stronger than the monster Vutu, regained her composure and commented that she didn't look any different from a monster. Ko Vuong Kat silently admired her beauty from afar and always found Ho charming. To change the subject, he pulled out something that surprised everyone. What demon is this? It smells awful. Finally, what is it, Your Majesty? If it's the blood of a dragon, I have to explain it in a tiresome way. On the way through the demon cave, I got lost and found it there. But what's it for? It's quite simple. Drink up, my dear subordinates. No one can believe they can swallow this foul-smelling thing. Thien Pham explained that after drinking it, the body's meridians will be detoxified, and the spiritual energy will flourish greatly. If we keep it for ourselves, it would be a waste. So I put it in my pocket and took it out. Although it's good, it seems that the swords don't want to swallow it. Weak as they are, they're still loyal. But loyalty, as always, is the most loyal. The leader worked hard to bring it back to you, but you hesitate. I'll drink it first. A little foul smell won't hurt. Saying so, he pushed everyone around and took a gulp to establish his credibility. He drank it all, not leaving a drop. He then looked very refreshed, but perhaps not so. Its taste was unbearable to the point that he couldn't bear it. He wanted to vomit but couldn't, and swallowing it all didn't help. Van Q thought it might be a spiritual medicine. An hour later, the change came quickly. Just as the leader said, I felt much better. After that, everyone had to drink it except for the Boneflower Lake and Van Q, fearing it would affect their delicate skin. But since there's nothing else to do, Fan Fam left. The place he went to was the blacksmith's forge in the northern demon sect. The master had received the forest and was testing its hardness, but he could only break it with a hammer. The heavenly leader, do you find this? Where did you find it? I really can't say it's true, but with such good material, we can definitely create the best weapon for you. If you've been promoted to the leader, you'll certainly be given a heavenly weapon. Will you use it as a sword? This idea is that, as a leader, you can freely forge all kinds of weapons without limitation, except when there's not enough material. So please ask the master to make me a sword. It will take a little longer since he'll be making both a sword and a saber at the same time. After that, he went to inform the section leader about choosing a senior to perform the 6th level test. The sect leader replied that there's nothing wrong. With the help of the section leader, this exceeded the standards for discussion. But is this kid serious? So Thane Pham challenged the foot servant sect master of the ghost sect. He's a talented person who has reached the highest level of formation transformation for a long time. Although he wants to eliminate him, because he's the leader of the 6 great sects, he can't be a match for him. Right after reaching the highest level of formation transformation. I see. I'll send an official announcement to the ghost sect. So everything seems to be going according to Thine Pham's plan. But the planner is never as good as the heavens. Today marks the 10th day since the protagonist proposed to carry out the 6th level test. The envoys of the Wunlin Union have arrived at the demon sect's heavenly temple. After 10 years, this is a shocking event for the entire demon sect. Inside the demon sect, isolated from the outside world, he didn't know what the next day would bring. The sect leader called the protagonist to meet him. I need to see you urgently. What's going on? I'm sorry, Your Highness, but perhaps you'll have to change your opponent in the 6th level test. Why is that? Has the first senior master changed his mind? Lai Ho Min shook his head disdainfully, denying that reason. He had also generated internal force spreading throughout the room. It seems like he wants to tell some secrets. This is important to the section, so we can't be specific. Currently, there are only a total of 4 senior masters, from the 9th senior master to the 12th senior master. After hearing this, Thane Pham understood everything. All the strongest people were absent, so he couldn't compete with the sect leaders of the 6 great sects. The sect leader also added that recently, the positions of the senior masters had changed. Even the white sect leader of the poisonous demon sect had stepped down to the position of the 12th senior master. This is indeed something he approves of. It's better to have that old man than not. Very quickly, the next day, a letter from the demon sect was sent to the poisonous demon sect. The sect leader had to call everyone to the study room for discussion. Bach Ngo felt that Thine Phan was the luckiest one as the senior master was absent. Otherwise, he would have been punished. Currently, it's like a deadly poison in the last 3 years. The status of the demon sect is higher than all the 6 great sects, so the sect leaders will try to weaken their power. However, the anticipated competition involving all the 6 great sects, including the poisonous demon sect, was changed due to the appearance of the envoy from the Wunlin Union. Bach Van Hung reminded the sect leader to firmly reject the challenge from the demon sect. I also think so. If we have to endure more pressure from the 6 great sects, we will collapse. But another person argued that if we refuse, it's like admitting our weakness. Then, lying there because of an illness. Our sect has reached this level, so we don't have to refrain for anyone. A 20-something-year-old kid in the formation transformation stage is not someone we should be afraid of. It's necessary to eliminate him from the beginning, no matter how strong he is. Despite his power, no one can back him up. Bach Ngo spoke loudly to interrupt the meeting like a command. Indeed, I really want to kill him. But if we act now, we will lose a lot, so my decision is to refuse this request. After speaking, Bach Ngo also went to Thien Truong's place. After a few years, he was still lying there in the same place. Hearing the footsteps of Bach Ngo, he opened his eyes to greet him. But he couldn't say anything, just groaning. Outside, it was announced that the sect leader had a visitor. It was the first lady of the sect, belonging to the poisonous demon sect. Then the sect leader also hurriedly went to meet her. As soon as he opened the door, she was already there. Thane Truong Thane recognized the woman from before, unable to go anywhere. From her appearance to her expression, everything was the same as before. He remembered the incident when his parents were poisoned by her. Then, the sinister smile and the malicious look in her eyes. Thien Truong Thien understood that the woman had used the poison of beauty to harm his mother. It's not clear how their meeting went, but the next day, the sect leader received a letter accepting participation in the 6th level test. So time passed until the day Thien Pham challenged the poisonous demon sect leader. From early in the morning, he hurried to his master's place to get the weapon. However, it seems like it still wasn't done. After half an hour of meticulous work, it was finally completed. Turning to the master, Thien Pham asked for the weapon. However, it seemed like the master had been here since when. Holding the sword in his hand, he was very satisfied and even engraved the name Bach Long Dao as requested. This white dragon saber is very suitable for him. You should direct the sword forward. This is to test the sharpness of the spiritual energy. Indeed, the paper was torn in the half after being touched. Thien Pham was very satisfied because it was thin, light, and sharp. He didn't expect that the master could make such a perfect treasure saber. This white dragon saber and a black sword will become the symbols of Thien Pham in the future. Finally, the 6th level test was held right in the demon sect's martial arts arena. Many people commented as soon as Thien Pham appeared. The 6th level test. Ha! He truly is a monster. During his time gear, he has reached the formation transformation stage. Can he really compete with the senior master? It seems like people still don't know who the protagonist's opponent is. But some have researched and found out that it's the 12th senior master. After a while, the sect leader also came out, and following him was someone who turned out to be the 9th senior master, Taman Gayat. Under the leadership of the 12th senior master, Tama seemed pleased to see his father. Finally, Thien Pham's opponent appeared, and it was none other than the sect leader of the poisonous demon sect, Bakshmyo. Spectators felt like they were watching a crazy play. Indeed, he had appointed him, and now he's stuck with that old man's poison. Even his essence was gone. The sect leader informed his opponent before starting. I want to thank the 12th senior master for accepting the heavenly master's request. This 6th level test will be evaluated by the 9th senior master. Bach Ngo didn't feel quite pleased about this. Lai Ho Min knew him since the incident 2 years ago. Now he's all poison. The protagonist approached to greet his opponent, and the sect leader of the poisonous demon sect also paid attention to him. It seems like years of enmity will be repaid today. Immediately, the sect leader gave the signal, and Bach Ngo charged forward directly. It was clear that he had been waiting for this moment for years to avenge his grandson who had been lying in bed all this time after being attacked unexpectedly. But even so, the protagonist wasn't affected. People below consider Bach Ngo despicable for attacking without protecting Thien Pham's body. He immediately disappeared using illusion transformation. The 2 judges above recognized that martial art as belonging to the great Taoist law. Indeed, he had learned the secret in the 5th floor of the demon sect library. The sect leader of the poisonous demon sect remained calm and fought back without hesitation. The staff in his hand managed to push back Thien Don Chu. The protagonist feels that his opponent, though old, was still agile and quick. It's impressive. Bach Ngo thought the same and planned to disable Thien Pham's legs with his Yumit technique, the crippling cane. It was extremely powerful, and the audience felt like it was about to explode in excitement amidst the dust and smoke. Thien Pham wasn't injured but flew up. Bach Ngo continued to jump to chase, not letting him rest. He aims at his own leg to immobilize himself. However, the protagonist drew his sword and continued with the heavenly blade technique. He uses the second move, backlash, to counter. Bach Ngo also responded with the 5th move, demon breaking 6 strikes, causing everyone to be affected by the poison's toxicity, making their brains almost explode. After the clash, both opponents stepped back to defend themselves. Bach Ngo's weapon was covered with deadly poison, the poison blade. But why didn't his sword break? It's so sharp. Even though it just reached the formation transformation stage, the battle experience is still lacking. However, it's not as easy as I thought. Even though I have deployed 10 successful strikes, I still couldn't push him back. Indeed, despite their mutual enmity, the sect leader of the poisonous demon sect also praised the protagonist's rapid progress. Now, I understand why Madame Vu said that 6 days ago before the competition. Today, she came to meet Bach Myo, and she knew about the divine physician. Do you want to listen? Because he is the best in Trung Nguyen. As long as he's not dead, anyone can be saved. Who knows where he is now? Our ancestors were given this card by the divine physician. Just carry it with you, and you can meet him anywhere. Kill that kid if you can. If you can use this incident to make the situation worse, the Hain Matong will rise even higher. Indeed, my mother has done everything to make her son the junior sect leader again. Back to the fight. Batch Mill understood that he was not just facing the sect leader, but someone whose strength might be on par with the 3 senior masters or even higher. So today, you will definitely die here. From the emanating thoughts, there were many internal forces, including millions of toxic gases. The 9th senior master was worried because he realized the intention of the 12th senior master was to kill the sect leader. The sect leader also understood, but he was helpless against the fierce poison created by Bakmyo. The demonic power was so intense that even the audience urged the Lord to come to the rescue. The opponent gradually approached, emitting millions of toxic gases that covered his body. Although he looked fierce, the protagonist wasn't scared. He took momentum and gripped the heavenly sword tightly, rushing towards him, waiting for the right moment.